Now, Syria has announced a comprehensive ceasefire with Turkish forces after a meeting between Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara and the Kurdish leader Mazloum Abdi. Those talks then coming following violent clashes in the northern city of Aleppo. Well, Syrian authorities have rejected Kurdish demands for a decentralised government. The issue has exacerbated tensions with the Kurdish administration that controls swathes of the north and northeast. Well, to talk to us more about this, France 24's Wassim Nasser joins me in the studio. Hello to you, Wassim. Talk us through these latest deadly clashes in the northern city of Aleppo. What was behind that?
Well, actually, those clashes were the first as this heavy since the fall of Assad. It went off since there was a bargain for an exchange of prisoners between the YPG and Syrian government forces that failed. It led the government to block all the entrances to those neighborhoods. And as we see on this footage, inhabitants of those Kurdish neighborhoods in Aleppo city attacked the checkpoints around the neighborhood, which led to clashes. We're going to see it, very heavy clashes in the town, like exchange of fire between the YPG, Kurdish forces, and government forces. I reached out to a very prominent person in charge in Aleppo city, and he told me that nobody is seeking escalation. That was on the night of the clashes. It is only because the prisoner swap failed, and actually, as you said, there was a truce and a ceasefire which was implemented and saluted a few minutes ago even by the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Now, yesterday there was a high-level US delegation in the Syrian capital. That coincides with Mazloum Abdi, head of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. He was also in town. How are those talks with Damascus advancing?
Well, actually, it was a very high-level delegation. We're going to see the images of this delegation. We are talking about the American envoy, Tom Barak, that we see here with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the same Minister of Foreign Affairs, and behind him, the person in charge of the, one of the persons in charge of the American dossier, Mohammed Qanatri, in between them. And he met, of course, the Syrian president, and he met even the Minister of Defense and the head of intelligence. We know that the talks are very important since the U.S. is ongoing a shift from Iraq to Syria, meaning the U.S. military. The CENTCOM, the head of the CENTCOM, was for the second time in Damascus to meet Shara, and we know that everybody wants the discussions with the Syrian Democratic Forces to succeed, but not everybody wants them to succeed for the same reasons. Meaning, the main issue for Tom Barak here is stabilization in Syria, but also the talks with Israel. Well, while for Turkey, which is a very important player in Syria today, they want the discussions with the Syrian Democratic Forces to go through because they have their own discussions with the PKK ongoing in Turkey. We're going to look at the map maybe to see the Syrian landscape, to see how actually the areas are divided. What we see in yellow is under the administration of the Syrian Democratic Forces, meaning under Kurdish leadership. As far as we know, the talks which are still ongoing didn't have any tangible outcome on the ground, and delays can jeopardize the whole process, since the first agreement was made on the 10th of March. According to French sources this time, advances are being made, and each side is seen or seeking to lower its expectation in order to make things go forward, even though slower than the U.S. would have wished for previously. For example, on the Kurdish side, they are dropping political autonomy of the area we see in yellow in order to have enhanced maybe decentralization, which is its way to go forward in talks. And from Damascus side, they will accept the integration of the Syrian Democratic Forces as a whole and not on individual basis, which is also could be also a breakthrough. But according to a very important person in the Syrian administration, negotiating this dossier, I was told that those details, meaning what I just told you, contain other tricky details that haven't been discussed yet, and that another meeting with Mazloum Abdi is going to be organized very soon. And very important about what happened, you mentioned Mazloum Abdi. I knew that the meeting with him was very short in time. A meeting was held only with the Minister of Defense, which issued the only public statement regarding Mazloum Abdi's visit to Damascus, meaning about the ceasefire. No photos were taken. as we know, and the delegation, so the Syrian Democratic Forces delegation was constituted solely by Kurdish elements, and among them very core PKK actually elements. So no Arab representatives were in this delegation that visited Damascus, meaning Arab representatives from the northeast, knowing that the majority of the population, the majority of the land, and the majority of the fighting force in this area is Arab. So at the same time, the discussions are going, but at the same time, Damascus is trying to play other cards, preparing for other options. For example, they are preparing for an Arab tribal shift away from the Syrian Democratic Forces, as it happened in Manbij, which I visited a few months ago after the fall of Assad. And there's the man with the plan. We're going to see his picture now, actually, is one of the most important aides, the man in the middle here, of the actual Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara. He is his representative for tribal issues, meaning they are trying to attract tribes which are still loyal to the Syrian Democratic Forces through new political constructions, but also we saw it through the latest elections which happened, because in the region of Afrin, which is under the control of Damascus, it's a Kurdish area, the three parliamentaries that won the elections actually are Kurdish from the political party called NKS, meaning they are also trying to attract them politically.
Now, there have also been talks that we saw at the beginning of the month between Moscow and Damascus.
We are seeing renewed talks between Moscow and Damascus, remembering that Russia still has two bases in Syria, an air base in Hmayhim and a port in Tartus. And here is the delegation of the Syrian army that visited Moscow on the 1st of October. On the 2nd of October, we saw a Russian delegation. We also have a picture which visited Syria. Maybe we'll see the picture next. Here it is. It's a Russian official delegation, military delegation visiting Syria. And also on the 2nd of October, we had another Syrian delegation visiting military facilities in Russia. And we'll see maybe the picture. And why it is important, because Damascus is trying also to play this power struggle between the US, Russia, France, and others on in order to preserve its own interests in this power game, but also because Russia is very important in supplying armament to the Syrian army, because 99% of the armament that the Syrian army has is actually Russian made. So we see that it's a new phase in the relations between Syria and Russia after the fall of Assad, knowing that a visit of the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara is planned for the 15th of October to Moscow. So after his visit to Paris, his visit to New York, there will be a visit for Moscow, and we see how Syria is shuffling the whole relation that were prevailing under Assad now with the new actual Syrian government in power.
Okay, Wassim Nasr, thank you.